That very first second, when we meet someone for the first time. No doubt that our looks matter quite a bit. But how do our looks affect our life in general? Do beautiful people simply have better lives? To find answers, Storm and I have packed our bags and traveled to the fashion capital of the world, Paris. To try the egg and horse steaks, and to speak with author Maylene Rydell about her book, The Illusions of Happiness, and how beauty can affect our life. After years of preparation, we have left behind the safety of our jobs, apartments, social security, and solid ground, and embarked on a 3-year sailing trip around the world in search of the good life.
Hello and good morning.
We want to meet people, visit places, and explore the science behind what a good life is and what we can do ourselves to have a good life. All this at the comfortable speed of 10 kilometers an hour. Please join us as we explore life. I guess our fascination of beauty is created quite early in life. Already as children, we are told stories of beautiful princesses and handsome superheroes. In movies, bad people are often ugly and the good are good-looking. We quickly learn to associate good looks with good fortune and a good life. So it makes good sense to spend time and money on finding the right clothing, the right haircut, all the stuff that will make us look great. But will increasing our looks really give us a better life? Or is it in fact only about money?
The same dream is sold also because it makes us buy products. If you tell people that they're good enough as they are and they don't need to do all this to actually be loved, consumption will go down.
That's Maylene. She has, among many other things, taken a close-up look at the science behind our fascination with beauty and how beauty can affect our life. And there is in fact data to support that being handsome or beautiful will give you some advantages in life. Like good-looking students do in fact get better grades. It is quicker to find a job. And beautiful people earn 10 to 15% more than their less beautiful counterparts. That all sounds great, but there is a lot more to that story, and it's not all that great. Let's explore beauty. Maylene has worked for many years in the corporate world, but in 2012, that began to change.
When the World Happiness Report came out in 2012, Denmark was the happiest country in the world on that list. I was actually not able to explain why. You know, I'm born in Denmark, I'm Danish, my parents are Danish. I lived abroad for a long time, but I couldn't explain why it was the happiest country in the world.
So she started digging deep into the report and into the science behind what makes not only Danish people happy, but what makes people happy. She quickly found that most of the data was written by academics for academics. She wanted to change that, to make the science of happiness accessible to everyone, by writing books and giving talks all over the world.
When I talk about happiness, I don't talk about particularly sort of laughing all the time, or I talk about how you construct a good base in life. So I more talk about well-being, I talk about trust, I talk about empathy, I talk about knowing yourself, I talk about understanding other people, creating good quality relationships in life, and I talk about being part of something that's bigger than yourself, something that has meaning.
In her book, The Illusions of Happiness, she takes a close-up look at the science behind some of the things we very often associate with a better life, like being famous, rich, influential, or being beautiful.
When you talk about beauty, it's usually you want other people to consider you to be beautiful, or you think that if you are more beautiful and other people look at you and tell you you're beautiful, then that's going to make you feel happier.
She also found that this longing for being considered beautiful has what I would call a frightening large foundation to build on. In 2004, a global study found that only 2% of women worldwide think of themselves as being beautiful. And that figure is most likely not getting better.
Especially with social media, we get bombarded with this dream life, other people's dream life. Before, we had a certain kind of filter on that's in Hollywood, or that's on TV, that's in a magazine. So you can dream about it, but it's not your neighbor. And now it's actually your neighbor or your colleague or your friend. And so this constant comparing yourself to these ideals has made it more intense and actually worse in some ways.
Social media has most definitely impacted our lives, both for the good and the bad. But now, coming back to beauty, can it give us a happier life?
It's interesting because it has been proven that there are some benefits, like you get better grades or lower sentences in a lawsuit, and you get a better table in a restaurant, etc. But generally speaking, these benefits, it has not been proven that they can be turned into happiness as such. Those are just benefits.
But does that also go for the people that many of us consider to be the most beautiful?
Who would incarnate the ideal beauty? The models, because they make the advertising that make us buy the creams, or the perfume. And so there's one major study made by 2 American universities and 1 English university where they looked at the models. Are they really happier then because they look so beautiful? And the conclusion of the study is that they're less happy than the average woman. And so they have higher levels of anxiety and they have higher levels of loneliness.
Now, I can't say that Storm and I have ever been truly fascinated by the beauty industry or considered it a dream life. But the data is still surprisingly clear and highlights a scary point, that the people many of us envy for their beauty and for their way of life are in fact less happy than the average person.
All these very, very beautiful people often don't look at themselves as being beautiful, so it's no source of happiness. And it's also, in many cases, if you're overvalued for the way you look, it actually could devalue everything else about you. So when people you meet always only comment on the way you look, which is something that's going to go away a little bit when you get older in terms of the ideal standards, it can actually give these people a lot of insecurities and sources of anxiety or feeling that they're only liked because of the way they look. And people want to be loved for who they are, not what they are.
Being pretty and feeling pretty is obviously not the same. And to make matters worse, Maylene also found studies highlighting some of the drawbacks of being beautiful. For instance, that healthcare professionals pay less attention to beautiful people because their good looks make them seem like they're in better shape than they really are. Also, we have a lower tolerance for listening to their complaints since we feel that they have every reason to be happy. So where does all this take us?
I think the essential point to understand about beauty is that it's really not what other people think about the way you look, it's what you think about the way you look.
Of course, it all comes back down to that good old self-acceptance. We've heard it so many times in our lives, but it's just not that easy to do. But here, Maylene comes to the rescue with a bit of science.
There's this study on what are the criteria for a beautiful person, and actually the one that came out at the top at 89% was a happy person.
Then came kindness as number 2 and confidence as number 3. Physical appearance only ranked number 9.
So I think we have a little bit of a cliff in the way we think about it and the way it really is.
Beauty is clearly based on many things. How good you look is not just about how good you look. When I think about the people around me that I find handsome or beautiful, they clearly don't look the same. And some might even be less fortunate with regards to physical appearance. But still, I do find them good looking. It might very well be that it is in fact the positivity and kindness that are making them look great. Also, I'm happy to learn that being happy is an important part of being beautiful. It gives hope for people like me, of what I would call average human beauty. It's also a very good reason to start thinking seriously about what a good life looks like for you. It will make you happier and prettier. Being beautiful might not make you happy, but being happy just might make you beautiful.
Au revoir, Paris.
Au revoir, Paris.
Au revoir.